Imagine you're only 16 years old. Your kingdom is surrounded by enemies. The greatest military commander of your age is marching toward your capital with tens of thousands of soldiers. Your generals expect defeat. Your advisors expect surrender. But your greatest enemy isn't the army outside your walls. It's your own body. Every day, you lose a little more feeling in your hands. Your face begins to change. Your strength slowly disappears. The doctors have already told you there is no cure. Most people believed a king with this disease could never lead an army. They were wrong, because this young king would ride into battle against one of history's greatest generals and win. His name was Baldwin IV, and history would remember him as the leper king of Jerusalem. But to understand how a dying teenager defeated one of history's greatest commanders, we must return to where his extraordinary story began. The year was 1161. In the holy city of Jerusalem, a prince was born into one of the most dangerous kingdoms in the medieval world. His name was Baldwin. His father was King Amalric I. From the moment he was born, everyone expected him to become a warrior king. Like every young noble, Baldwin studied languages, history, religion, and the art of war. His tutor, a respected scholar named William of Tyre, noticed something strange. One day, the boys were playing together. Like many children, they pinched, pushed, and wrestled with one another. The other boys cried out whenever they were hurt, but Baldwin never reacted. No matter how hard his friends pinched his arm, he simply smiled. William became concerned. He tested the boy again. Still, nothing. Baldwin could not feel pain in parts of his body. At first, no one understood what it meant. Soon, the royal physicians reached a frightening rest. The young prince had contracted leprosy. In the 12th century, this diagnosis felt almost like a death sentence. Leprosy slowly damaged the nerves. Victims lost feeling in their hands and feet. Over time, their muscles weakened. Their faces changed. Simple injuries became dangerous because they could no longer feel them. Worst of all, there was no known cure. Many people feared the disease. Some even believed it was a punishment from God. For any ordinary person, life would become incredibly difficult. But Baldwin was not an ordinary person. He was the future king of Jerusalem. The kingdom now faced an impossible question. How could a boy whose body was slowly failing one day lead an army? No one knew the answer. Least of all, Baldwin himself. Yet, the young prince refused to stop learning. Every morning, he continued studying. He practiced swordsmanship, learned military strategy, read history, and prepared for a future that everyone feared. He knew his body would betray him, so he decided his mind never would. Then, everything changed. At just 13 years old, his father died. The frightened boy, who was slowly losing feeling in his own body, was suddenly crowned King of Jerusalem. The kingdom needed a warrior. Instead, it received a child. And across the desert, one ambitious leader was beginning to unite the Muslim world. His name was Saladin. In 1174, King Amalric I died. Jerusalem mourned. Church bells echoed across the city. Nobles gathered inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. There, a frail 13-year-old boy received the crown of Jerusalem. The kingdom finally had a new king, but many wondered how long he would survive. Some believed the crown now rested on the head of a dying child. Others saw an opportunity. Powerful nobles began competing for influence. Foreign rulers watched carefully. Across the desert, one man was becoming stronger every year. His name was Saladin. Saladin had once been only a commander. Now, he dreamed of something far greater. He wanted to unite the Muslim world under one banner. Egypt, Syria, Damascus, Aleppo. One by one, they came under his rule. His greatest goal was Jerusalem, the holy city, a city sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike. To reclaim Jerusalem, he first had to defeat its young king. Many believed that would not be difficult. After all, what could a sick teenager possibly do? But Baldwin surprised everyone. Instead of hiding inside the palace, he attended council meetings. He studied maps. He questioned experienced generals. He learned every mountain pass, every fortress, every water source. Because he understood something important. If his body could not become stronger, his mind must. While other kings trained only with swords, Baldwin trained with strategy. Every lesson might one day save his kingdom. Yet, his illness never stopped advancing. Some mornings, his fingers refused to obey him. Holding a sword became harder. Writing became slower. Even climbing onto his horse required assistance. Still, he refused to let anyone pity him. Whenever soldiers saw their young king, they saw determination, not despair. His courage inspired the army. If the king could continue fighting while suffering every day, how could ordinary soldiers complain? Then, the moment arrived. Saladin crossed into the kingdom of Jerusalem. Villages burned. Farmers fled. Smoke filled the horizon. The greatest commander in the Middle East was coming. Many advisors urged caution. Others suggested surrender. Baldwin listened quietly. Then he made his decision. He would ride out and meet Saladin himself. Not because he believed victory was certain, but because a king's duty was to stand beside his people, even if death waited ahead. In 1177, a 16-year-old king, whose hands were already losing their strength, mounted his horse. He rode toward an army that outnumbered his own several times over. History expected the young king to fall. Instead, he was about to achieve one of the most astonishing victories of the Crusades. The Battle of Montgisard was about to begin. It was November 1177. The kingdom of Jerusalem stood on the edge of disaster. Saladin had invaded with one of the largest armies the Crusader kingdom had ever faced. Nearly 26,000 soldiers marched across the Holy Land. They burned villages, captured towns, and believed victory was only days away. Jerusalem seemed defenseless. King Baldwin IV could gather only a few hundred knights and a few thousand infantry. His army was hopelessly outnumbered. Many believed the kingdom had already fallen, but Baldwin refused to surrender. Although only 16 years old and already weakened by leprosy, he mounted his white war horse once again. His hands struggled to grip the reins. Pain and weakness followed him every day, yet his spirit remained unbroken. Beside him rode the greatest knights of Jerusalem, including the fearless Reynald of Châtillon. At the center of the army, priests carried one of Christianity's most sacred relics, the true cross. Many soldiers believed they were riding towards certain death. Saladin was confident. His scouts reported only a small crusader force. He expected little resistance. His army relaxed. Some soldiers scattered in search of food. Others removed parts of their armor beneath the hot afternoon sun. They believed the battle had already been won. They were wrong. Near the hill of Montgisard, Baldwin made his decision. He would attack immediately. There would be no waiting, no retreat, no second chance. The young king lowered his sword. Crusader horns echoed across the hills. Hundreds of armored knights charged downhill like a thunderstorm. The earth shook beneath thousands of pounding hooves. Dust filled the air. Sunlight flashed across polished steel. Saladin's army, caught completely by surprise, struggled to form battle lines. Confusion spread across the battlefield. Baldwin rode at the front, his illness forgotten. His fear disappeared. He fought beside his soldiers, not behind them. The Crusader charge smashed into Saladin's forces. What had seemed impossible was becoming reality. The enormous army began to break apart. Panic spread. Warriors fled across the desert. Even Saladin himself barely escaped. His bodyguards carried him away from the battlefield, while much of his army collapsed behind him. Against every expectation, the sick teenage king had defeated the greatest commander of his age. The victory at Montgisard became one of the most astonishing triumphs of the Crusades. Europe celebrated. Jerusalem rejoiced. Across kingdoms, people spoke of the young king, whose courage had overcome impossible odds. But Baldwin knew this victory had won only time. His greatest enemy was still waiting. It lived inside his own body. Every year, the disease grew stronger. Every year, the king grew weaker. Soon, he would no longer be able to hold a sword. And while Baldwin slowly faded, Saladin patiently rebuilt his army, preparing for one final struggle that would decide the future of Jerusalem.
The victory at Montgisard echoed across Europe. Kings praised Baldwin. Pilgrims called his triumph a miracle. For a brief moment, Jerusalem was safe. But Baldwin understood something few others did. Winning one battle would not end the war. Saladin was still alive, and he would return. While his greatest enemy rebuilt an army, another enemy continued its silent attack: leprosy. The disease spread slowly through Baldwin's body. His hands became weaker. His feet lost feeling. Simple tasks became impossible. He could no longer ride into battle without help. Some mornings, servants lifted him onto his horse. Other days, he struggled to sign royal documents. Yet every day, he continued ruling. He met ambassadors.
He judged disputes. He strengthened castles. He prepared Jerusalem for the battles still to come. Baldwin knew his illness would eventually prevent him from leading armies. So he searched for commanders who could defend the kingdom after him. He trusted experienced knights like Baliar of Ibila and the brilliant military commander Raymond III of Tripoli. The kingdom needed unity. Instead, it found division. Powerful nobles argued over succession. Some wanted influence. Others wanted power. While they argued, Saladin grew stronger. Year after year, Saladin united more territories. His armies became larger, his commanders more experienced. His dream never changed. He would reclaim Jerusalem, and he believed time was finally on his side. By 1183, Baldwin could barely use his hands. His eyesight had begun to fail. Walking became difficult. The once fearless teenage warrior was now carried on a litter, covered with royal cloth. But even then, he refused to abandon his army. Whenever soldiers saw their king, they saw not weakness, but courage. His body had become fragile. His spirit never did. Knowing he would not live much longer, Baldwin made one final decision. He crowned his young nephew, Baldwin V, hoping to secure the future of Jerusalem. It was an act, not of ambition, but of responsibility. He wanted his kingdom to survive, even if he could not. In the spring of 1185, at only 23 years old, King Baldwin IV died. The kingdom mourned. Church bells rang across Jerusalem. Soldiers lowered their banners. A king who had defeated impossible odds was gone. Yet the greatest test for Jerusalem was still to come. Without Baldwin, could the kingdom survive? Just 2 years later, Saladin returned, with the largest army the Holy Land had ever seen. At a place called Hattin, the fate of Jerusalem would be decided. And without the leper king, history would take a very different path. Only 2 years after Baldwin's death, Saladin returned. This time, there was no leper king to stop him. In 1187, the armies of Jerusalem met Saladin at the Battle of Hattin. The Crusader army was surrounded. Exhausted by heat and desperate for water, it was completely defeated. The true cross was captured. One by one, the kingdom's strongest fortresses surrendered. Then, Jerusalem itself opened its gates. The holy city that Baldwin had protected for years was lost. History often asks what might have happened if Baldwin IV had lived longer. No one knows the answer. But one fact remains. During Baldwin's lifetime, Saladin never captured Jerusalem. The young king, whose body grew weaker every year, had delayed one of history's greatest conquerors. Not because he possessed the largest army, not because he was the strongest warrior, but because he refused to surrender. Today, historians still remember Baldwin IV as one of the most extraordinary rulers of the Middle Ages. He proved that true leadership is not measured by physical strength. It is measured by courage, by responsibility, by choosing duty even when every day brings pain. Most kings inherited powerful kingdoms. Baldwin inherited a kingdom at war and a disease that slowly stole his body. Yet he never allowed either to steal his purpose. His story reminds us that every person carries battles others cannot see. Some fight enemies, others fight illness. Some fight fear, others fight doubt. The greatest victories are not always won by the strongest people. Sometimes they are won by those who simply refuse to give up. A teenage king living with an incurable disease stood against one of history's greatest generals and changed the course of history. His hands became weaker, his body slowly failed, but his courage never did. More than 800 years later, the leper king of Jerusalem still teaches the world that our greatest limitations do not have to define our greatest achievements. That was King Baldwin IV. Vocabulary 1. Resilience. The ability to recover and continue despite difficulties. 2. Succession. The process by which a ruler is replaced. 3. Fortitude. Courage during pain or hardship. 4. Conqueror. A person who defeats and takes control of lands. 5. Legacy. What a person leaves behind and is remembered for. If you had been one of Baldwin IV's knights, would you have followed a king who knew he was dying, yet never stopped fighting? Let us know your answer in the comments.